For today's class, we are going to be reviewing and having a very good excursus on the second task of the writing section. Okay, remind that there are two tasks in the writing section, so that you're going to be able to know how to approach both of them. And from tomorrow, and continuing from tomorrow on, all right, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. Just got me out. Doesn't matter. Okay, so as I was saying, we're going to get into the second task of the writing section today. So please accompany me in that excursus, and I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's begin, okay? So let's continue. Let's go here. All right, please look at my screen, and you're going to find some information about the second task of the writing section, okay? So this second task, as you can see, has the title too, okay? This is the independent essay. Maybe this term is also very familiar to you because we have been using this word in order to describe many, or well, at least in this case, one of the tasks for the speaking section. If we remind our classes in the last weeks, we had been learning about the different tasks in the speaking section, right? We first of all saw the independent task, the first one, that require us to basically choose a position in a statement that require us to, take a let's say a side in the balance, and then to express our opinion, express our position, and then to defend it, right? Also, of course, you were familiarized too with the term integrated that we use in order to describe three of the tasks in the speaking section, and we also use it in order to describe one of the tasks here in this writing section. And now we're coming back to the independent term, because in this case, the second task for the writing section is an independent essay, okay? And let's read some information. It says the second task asks you to write an essay in which you state, pay attention to this, explain and support your opinion on an issue. Okay, maybe this, of course, it's starting to starting to give you information to remind, because that is exactly what we were discussing in our last in our last first task for the speaking section, because we also saw that for that particular task in that section, what we had to do was exactly to do the same. State, explain, and support our opinion, right? You remind the first task of the speaking section when there was a statement and said, for example, some people believe that cats are better than dogs. Do you agree or disagree with that? And you had to, of course, state your opinion, explain it, and support it, right? Exactly the same is going to happen for this particular essay, okay? You're gonna write down, in this case, of course, you're not gonna speak, but you're going to write down an essay explaining, supporting, stating your opinion, okay? You're gonna have 30 minutes to write your essay, okay? This is a very important thing. If you remind, for the first task of the of the writing section, you had 20 minutes in order to write down your essay, summarizing both the reading passage and also the listening passage. In this case, you're going to have a bit more time. You're going to have 10 minutes extra in order for you to use them in this particular section, okay? You're going to use, maybe in this case, you're going to use 20 minutes in order to write them down, and you're going to use the remaining 10 seconds in order for you to review it. Maybe that is going to be your strategy, I don't know. But of course, you have the benefit here, you have the benefit of having 10 extra minutes for you to use in this particular essay, okay? So be aware of that. You're going to have 30 minutes. 10 extra minutes, considering the last essay that you only had 20. But in this case, you have 30, okay? 30 minutes to write your essay. Now, your objective for this particular essay is going to be secure, okay? It's going to be, to be secure about your position and to be convincing, okay? That's the reason, again, why I brought to the class the picture of this man here on the right side of my screen. Maybe many of you know this person, Ben Shapiro, right? Ben Shapiro, it's a very famous political commentator, famous debater, especially as a debater. I think that he's very famous, and he has somehow managed to have a lot of fame and, let's say, a recognition, okay? But the reason why I brought him here is not because of any of his political views, nothing of that sort. It's simply because everybody agrees that this person is very secure of his position, and also he's very convincing. That is to say, he's a good debater. Okay, he presents a lot of arguments in order to defend his position, and that is exactly what I want you to imitate from him. Okay, in this case, you're going to be like Ben Shapiro, because the essay that you're going to be writing down must be something very, very solid and secure. Why do I mean by that? That the opinion, the statement, the position that you're going to write down in your essay must be something that you have very secure, that you have very, very consolidated. It must not be something, unstable, something that is going to break down, something that not even you are secure of it. You must be secure of what you're going to write down, your opinion, your position, and you must also, again, be convincing. You have to convince your reviewer that your position is right. Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to use a lot of arguments. Okay, so in this case, it's the time, it's the moment for you to express your opinion. Okay, many of you maybe were desiring to do that in the previous tasks. Maybe many of you complain, oh, I want to say what I think and not just summarize and be like a journalist. Well, this is the case. Okay, this is the time for you to be somebody who expresses his or her opinion. Okay, so please consider that general information and general aspects. Now let's move on. It will be excellent if you can reach 450 words for this part of the test. That is to say, in the 30 minutes you're going to have in order to write down this essay, it would be, I would say, very good if you can write down 450 words. Okay? At least you should write down like 300. Okay? Listen to that. At least 300. But if you want to, to equal yourself, to even yourself with the best test takers of the world, and to have a very good score, you have to write down something like 450 words. Okay, that is a very, very good quantity of words, and it's possible. I tell you by experience that it is possible to write down 450 words. For example, I remember that the first time I took the exam, I was able to write down 400 words in this particular task. In the second task, I wrote 400 words, and for the second time I took it in last year, I just got crazy. I don't know how I did it, but I ended up writing down 530 words. Like literally 530 words was my total count. And well, I mean, I tell you this not because I want to get proud of it, but because I am somehow, encouraging you that it is possible to improve very much, okay, exponentially. So you can, if you practice a lot, you're typing. That is exactly what we're going to get into right now. If you practice your grammar, if you practice everything, you're going to be able to write down these words, this quantity of words very easily. And of course, you're going to perform very well in the exam. Okay, so have that in mind. So that if you're able to write down 450 words, it's going to be awesome. And you have to write down at least 300. Okay, at least 300. So this part of the test is very important. And in order to do this, that is to say, to write down 450 words, you have to write down 15 words per minute. Okay, there are a lot of websites, for example, that can help you or can be useful for you to practice your typing. Okay, this is something I think that I recommended you already, but nonetheless, again, for example, if you go to typingtest.com, that page, that website is going to give you the opportunity to know how many words you can actually write per minute. For example, I think the first time I took it, I was able to write down just like 10 words per minute. I was super bad at typing, and then I improved again. So by practicing the exercises that they offer you in that website, it's free, by the way, you don't have to pay anything, you can improve exponentially again, okay? And also, of course, practicing for the exam itself with your keyboard, American keyboard, right? Not the Spanish keyboard, but the American keyboard is the one that you have to use in order to practice. And if you're going to take the IVT version, it's also the one that they are going to require you to use, okay? So be aware of that and practice with the American keyboard, okay? With the letters, the signs, everything located in those positions, okay? Because the positions where the letters are located, it's different from the Spanish keyboard to the English or the American keyboard, okay? So have that in mind, right? And what else? I have some advices for this section too, all right? So please look at this. In this case, okay, for this exam, let me show you first, before we get into this, let me go just back and let's get into our Magoosh account for you to know or for you to see how is this particular task look like in the how this particular task is going to look like in the actual exam. Okay, so let's get into Magush. So go to the constant practice, and also I'm going to use here writing, and also here, okay, no, this is the independent essay. Okay, so answering quiz mode. All right, wonderful. So for example, look at this. You're going to have, again, a screen super similar to this in the actual exam. You're going to have, again, your writing box on the right side of your screen. Here, you're going to have the instructions. And more importantly, you're going to have the statement that is going to propose you the topic for you to write about. Okay, let's read the instructions. In this case, it says, for this task, you will write an essay in response to a question that asks you to identify, that asks you to explain or to state and support your opinion on an issue. Typically, an effective essay will contain, as I said, a minimum of 300 words, okay? An effective essay is going to contain a minimum of 300 words. You have to be able to write down this quantity of words, yes or yes, okay? There's no doubt here, there's no hesitation. You have to write down 300 words at least if you want to have a good score, of course, right? The quality of your writing includes the development of your ideas, the organization of your essay, and the quality and accuracy of the language you use in order to express such ideas. You have, as I said, 30 minutes to plan and complete your essay, okay? So now, below that, there is going to be the statement that is going to propose you the topic for you to agree or disagree, or for you to take a position. Let's read it in this case. It says, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. This is, as you can see here, this is the topic, right? So what will you have to do in this case? You will have to write an essay commenting and stating if you agree or disagree with this, that reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. Do you agree? If you agree, you say, well, and as I'm going to explain, I'm going to show you, of course, all the template, etc. You're going to have to write down defending that position. Yes, I do agree with this. Reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. But if you disagree, you're, of course, going to say, no, I disagree with this, and you're going to write down your essay, trying to structure everything so that you can have, your response essay with all your arguments and illustrations, somehow supporting a specific position, okay? So this is what it's going to look like. And of course here, as I said, you're going to have your writing box. Here is where you're going to write down. Remind that here for this writing box, there is not going to be the possibility to have something or a program, let's say, or a software indicating you whenever you are committing a mistake, okay, in your grammar, in your spelling. So you have to be super secure and also to rely on your own knowledge in order to write down. For example, if you write, let's say, puzzle like this, rather than with the two C's, right? There's nothing, as you can see, that is going to tell you, oh, this is wrong. No, nothing. I mean, in this case, there is, but because I have Grammarly, right? But in the actual exam, this is not going to happen. You have to know that this is wrong, because nothing is going to tell you here like this. There's not going to be an announcement saying, okay, this word is wrong, please correct it. That is not going to happen. As I say, it's going to be pure writing, okay? If you write down, for example, I don't know, number like this with O rather than the U, right? Nothing is going to tell you that, okay? So you have to be prepared to review your essay and to know when it says that is wrong, okay? So below that, as you can see here, and this was the case also for the last exam, you're going to have a word counter, okay? So if you have, for example, there are many words, many words in this document. As you can see, while you're writing down your essay, the words here are going to be counted in this specific menu, okay? Word count, 7 words. And also in the actual exam, you're going to be able to hide it, okay? If you don't want to see this, maybe it makes you nervous, you say hide, and it's going to be hiding, okay? You're not going to be able to watch it, okay? Of course, you can activate it again if you want, okay? So this is how the exam is going to look like, or how the test is going to look like in the actual exam. Now, let's go and come back to our, to our recommendations, okay? So let me go here, okay. So my advice is for this section, pay attention to this. There's no right option here. What do I mean by this? Choose and write about the option that suits you the most, okay? For example, in this case, imagine that the topic talks about, I don't know, eating meat, it's something, let's say, morally wrong, Okay, but because for some people, especially the people who are vegetarian or vegan, they consider eating meat from any animal, it's something sometimes immoral, right? It's immoral because you are somehow sacrificing an animal, you are taking out its blood, you are making it suffer, and therefore they don't eat meat. Imagine that, as I say, the topic for the essay you're going to write down that day, it's about specifically that, veganism or vegetarianism. It says eating meat is morally wrong. Do you agree or disagree with that? Even if you, for example, disagree with that, even if you don't think that eating meat is morally wrong, even if you disagree with that, but if you know, for example, that it is easier to write down an essay and defend the position that it is morally wrong to eat meat, then you should write actually about that specific opinion or that specific position if you consider that it suits you, que te conviene. In the sense that, as I say, there is no right or wrong answer when you are deciding what to write down about. Okay, you can write down about whatever. I mean, if you have two options, okay, there's no like a true, or excuse me, there's no like a right and wrong one. Your reviewer is not going to say, oh, he wrote about this position, that's wrong. No, he's going to be open-minded to read down, or excuse me, to read whatever you wrote down. And if you choose a specific position and you manage to convey security and to convey somehow good arguments, good reasons for holding that opinion, then your reviewer is going to, of course, value that and is going to give you a good score. Okay, so as I say, there's no a wrong or right answer before you start writing down your essay. You can choose whatever. Okay, if you consider that something suits you, write down about that. Okay, first recommendation. Secondly, if you have factual information to begin your essay with, you can make up a phrase as a matter of introduction related to the topic. You're going to understand this more fully once we get into the template that I'm going to offer you in order to write down your essays, okay? But you have to know beforehand, let's say, or in advance, that in order to write down these essays, it's always recommendable and advisable to start with factual information. Imagine, for example, that our previous example, that the topic of the exam or the topic for you to take a position in your exam is that some people believe that eating meat is morally wrong. Okay, imagine that that is the case, or that is the topic. If you begin or if you start your essay by laying down some facts about that specific topic, that is going to give it way, way more seriousness and solidity to your essay. Okay, it's going to make it very solid and very serious because you're using somehow, let's say, the scientific method or information that has been supported and gathered by a recognized authority. Okay, it's super recommendable that if you have any information about the topic that is a fact, you can and you have to include it at the beginning of your essay. But if you don't have, imagine that, for example, you are not somebody who is an expert or somebody who is simply not familiarized with the topic that I just mentioned. If eating is something morally wrong or evil, maybe you have never thought about it. Maybe you don't like philosophy to begin to think about it. Fine. If you don't have factual information, if you don't have facts, data in order to begin your essay, you can make up a phrase as a matter of introduction related to the topic. For example, you could have said, my grandma always told me that it was very, very, let's say, it was very, very inadequate to eat animals' meat. If you say something like that, you're somehow introducing, of course, right, your topic. You are somehow using the authority of something that is universally, right, regarded as a very trustworthy and good source of information, as people who are old is, right? People who are old, they by experience have acquired a lot of knowledge. They are very wise. Great, you are somehow supporting your essay with the authority of your grandma, right? Maybe it's not a scientific institution, right? But it's all you have. Then it's better to start that way than not including any type of phrase or introduction that somehow catches the attention of your reviewer too, because remember, the person who is going to read your essay is going to be a person, okay, a human being. So, for example, if you read something that is super, super boring, if you receive a document talking about science and any topic or philosophy, And if it doesn't, start powerfully, giving you the sensation that this document is going to be interesting, you're going to have a prejudice. You're going to be reading that essay, and throughout the essay, you're going to say, "Oh, what a boring thing." But if you have some sort of very serious and powerful beginning, well, you're going to predispose your reviewer to give you a good score and to be, to be very, very much to pay attention. Okay, you're going to encourage him to pay attention, to be concentrated throughout your entire essay. Okay, that can help. Third, it is not necessary to have your essay written perfectly as you go about writing. This is something that I already mentioned for a first task, okay? You can write as good as you can and reserve your 10 to 12 minutes to check it out and review it before you submit it, okay? I told you, right, something of my experience, that when I took this essay, or when I took this exam last year, I took it with more people. And I managed to observe, because these people were practicing with me, we were scholars in a program, and these people, when I saw them practicing, I somehow noticed that while they were writing down their essay, whenever they committed a mistake, they stopped and didn't continue until they corrected the mistake. They always stopped, corrected, and continued. Stopped, corrected, and continued when they committed a mistake in their grammar, their spelling, whatever. I managed to understand that they were not performing very well in their exam because of the scores, of course. And I managed to understand that it's something actually unproductive, and it's actually, I would say, harmful for you to do this, because first of all, you are somehow losing your ideas, you're losing your reasoning trait, and you're also somehow making you or trying to, or becoming your own person as a very obsessed person with perfection, right? If you're writing down, you have to always write down perfectly. And that is, of course, harmful. It's disadvantageous because it's very difficult to attain perfection, right? So try to write down as good as you can and reserve you, in this case, 10 to 12 minutes in order to check out your essay, to review it, to see, oh, well, I committed a mistake here, and you review it, you correct it. But once you have finished to write your essay, because once you have finished, you don't have to continue writing anything, right? You don't have to continue reminding your idea. You don't have to continue thinking about your arguments, or actually you're going to be way more relaxed because you already finished, and you're just using the remaining time for you to check it out and to improve it if there is any mistake, right? So as I recommend you, try to reserve for you. In this case, you can reserve more time, right? Because you have 30 minutes to write down this essay. You have 30 minutes. So given that you have 30 minutes, try to save for you more time, 10 to 12 minutes. In the other essay, I recommended you only to reserve or save for you 5 to 7 minutes. In this case, you can reserve more time, 12 to 10 minutes, okay? Do it, please. This is very important. Now, again, as I recommended before, way better if you do not use contractions, right? You are trying, of course, in this case, to do what? You're trying to write down as many words as you can, right? You're obviously not trying to reduce your word calendar, but you're trying to augment it, to increase it. And if you're using contractions, well, of course, you're not going to be doing that. Okay, so avoid contractions. Finally, also very important, and it's actually even more important in this case, try to include advanced vocabulary. Don't conform yourself to write simple sentences, simple expressions. Let me show you. Try to write down, for example, coming back here, try to write down in present simple, try to write down in present perfect, try to use expressions like this, right? Let's say, rather than writing down, if you were a bit taller, I would have chosen you. Or excuse me, I would choose you, let's say. I would choose you. You can write the sentence. It's not wrong. I mean, grammatically speaking, it's fine, right? It's a good sentence. But if you write something like this, were you a bit taller? Were you a bit taller? I would have preferred you among the rest. Look at this. Look at these two sentences, for example. In this case, This one, of course, looks way more advanced, right? Were you a bit taller, I would have preferred you among the rest. Then, if you were a bit taller, I would choose you. I mean, nothing is wrong with the sentence, but if you write down following this type of rules, advanced grammar, complex sentences, present perfect, this type of expressions like this one, right? Were you a bit taller? You are going to have a higher score, of course, right? Because this type of writing is the one that people who are very, very, very proficient in English write like or try to use, okay? Recommendation, try to include expressions like this, try to write like this. But if you don't feel comfortable with this, of course, omit it. Simply write down as good as you can, okay? This is good, this is not bad. Wonderful. So now, before we get into the template and how to write down your essay, is there any question, any clarification you may want me to make? Anything about this particular task or any question? Is there something? No questions, no doubts? No? Okay. No questions then. Wonderful. Now, it's our turn. As you can see, for example, here, this is actually a more accurate, let's say, representation of how your screen is going to look like in the actual exam. You're going to have, as I said, on the right side of your screen, you're going to have here your writing box, the directions, all those buttons here. As I told you, you are able to paste, to copy, to cut, to undo, to redo. If you have something, if you had done something wrong and maybe you erased the entireness of your essay, you can just press Control Z, and of course, or you can just say undo, and of course they are going to return you your letters, right? That is possible. Don't worry. I mean, they know that people commit mistakes. You have all those buttons there to use them. As I told you, hide word account is also possible. You can hide this so that you don't know how many words you're writing. If you feel uncomfortable, do that. And of course, here is the option of volume, menu, and next, everything, all right? On the left side, the instructions and also the topic. In this case, for our practice, we're going to use this one. Reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? All right. So let's write together an essay in order to respond to this topic. Reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Okay. So right now, let me go to your WhatsApp group. I'm sending you here. I'm sending you this template. Okay. Here. I think it's here. Yeah. Not this. Okay, here. Okay, so I'm sending you this. And also here to the other one. Okay, wonderful. So please download that if you're in your computer and also in your cell phone. It's fine, right? Download that document and please follow me, because there you're going to have, as it was the case also for the first task, you're going to have the template and you're also going to have the example that I wrote in order for you to understand how to use the template. Okay, so please get into, open the document. It's a Word document, by the way. It's not that heavy. You can download it. All right, wonderful. Okay, so I guess you have already getting into. Wonderful. So if you have already gotten into, let's continue. All right, for example, look at this template writing task number 2. In this case, your essay is going to have 3 parts. Okay, reminder for the first task, the integrated essay, which has had 2 parts, the introduction and the body. Now we are going to add a third part, a conclusion. Okay, for those of you who always wanted to include a conclusion, now is your day. Okay, you're going to use a conclusion in this case. So be happy. All right, introduction, body, and conclusion. Okay, we're going to use the 3 super basic and structural parts of any general and generic essay. Okay, introduction, body, and conclusion. All right, now look at this. It says here fact 1, fact 2, and accordingly. These are somehow the first items you have to include in your essay. What do I mean by fact 1? Okay, if you scroll down, you're gonna find the essay that I wrote in this topic. Okay, remind the topic. The topic is reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. All right, so I wrote this essay. responding to that question, if I agree or disagree with it. So look at this, fact one is highlighted with yellow, okay? And that is the case for a reason, because here, the fact number one, I also highlighted it with yellow, okay? So please read. The first fact should be something like this. It has been scientifically demonstrated decades ago that people who read 5 books per year have a wider vocabulary than the average people. Okay, maybe this also hints you a little bit what is the position that I'm going to defend. In this case, I'm going to agree, okay? I'm going to be agreeing with this, okay? I am going to, I will agree, excuse me, okay? I will agree with this. So given that I'm going to be in favor of this position, given that I will agree with this, what I'm doing here is simply to propose 2 facts that I was aware of while I wrote down my essay in order to make an introduction, to make it solid, to make it serious, to make it powerful, because I am offering, facts. I'm offering proved and evaluated data, right? So as you can see, the fact number one that I included for my essay as a matter of introduction was this information that I knew. Has been scientifically demonstrated decades ago that people who read 5 books per year have a wider vocabulary than the average people, right? Wonderful. That is the fact number one, as you can see in yellow. Now, in red, fact number 2. Likewise, this connector, right? You have an entire exercise and also lessons on how to use connectors, what are connectors on our website, right? If you go to education, to executive English.education, you're going to find those connectors, documents, and exercises for you to read and learn, okay? But this is a connector. Likewise, asimismo, TV has been widely recognized as destructive by several medical experts and researchers. As you can see, what I'm doing here is to propose 2 facts. One is highlighted with yellow, the other one with red. Why? Because here, this is the fact number 1, the yellow, and here, fact number 2 with red, okay? So as you can see, the reason why we're including these particular facts, it's simply because, as I said, I want to make it powerful. I want to make it serious. Remind that your objective here is to convince your reviewer that your position is right. That is to say that the people who write down about the other position, they are wrong. But you, once you have chosen your position, your position is the right one. The other one is erroneous. You have to treat it like that, okay? Remind that. There is no right or wrong answer before you choose the topic. But once you have chosen the position that you are going to defend, then you have to consider your position as the right one, as the correct one. And the other is the wrong one, okay? So you have to defend yours and you have to basically, destroy the other one. You have to show that the other one, it's tremendously fallacious, wrong, okay? So let's continue. After you have, as you can see here, stated your fact number 1 and stated your fact number 2, you have to use accordingly. Another connector, right? Accordingly. What does accordingly mean? Accordingly means in consecuencia, right? Accordingly, TV is certainly not more educational than reading. As you can see, what am I doing here? I am stating my position. That is exactly what you have to do after you have reading accordingly. Your position, in this case, my position is TV is certainly not more educational than reading. As a matter of fact, I am complementing here, reading is absolutely superior to any TV education means. All right, so as you can see, I am following the template, right? The introduction is fact number 1, sustaining your position. Fact number 2, sustaining your position accordingly, and you stay your position, right? So accordingly, TV is certainly not more educational than reading. As a matter of fact, this is simply complement. You can write it down. You can dispense with it. If you want, you're able and you are encouraged to not complement it. But in this case, I decided to do it in order to, augment and increase the number of words I have, and also because I want to clarify it. As a matter of fact, reading is absolutely superior to any TV education means. Okay, this is due to the following motives. Okay, this phrase, as you can see, it's something that I always include in all my responses for the speaking section, for the writing section. This is a transition phrase. That is to say, this is your introduction, right? All this is your introduction, remind, and you're using this phrase here to connect your introduction with your body, because beginning here with the word first, this is your body, right? So you're using this in order to make your transition smooth, to make it you know, to make it precise, to make it, I would say, accurate. Because sometimes when you don't use a transition phrase like that, you're somehow like being, you know, very, very rough, like tough. And it sounds like you're being, you know, you're simply cutting it like too directly. And that simply affects you negatively, wrongly, right? So that is the reason why, although it's not here, I always recommend you to include that specific translation phrase, or excuse me, transition phrase, okay? This is due to the following motives. That is to say, I have this opinion because of the following motives. Okay, I'm using this phrase. This is due to the following motives. All right. And after I have finished my introduction, we get into the body. Okay. But before we get into that, any question about the introduction? Anything you want me to clarify? Maybe in Spanish? Tell me. Anything here? Introduction? Or it's clear? Clear? No questions? All right. No questions. Wonderful. So, oh, Marines, please.
Yes, teacher, like you were saying, if we don't have a fact, like in a specific section, it could be our opinion, or we can make up if someone else said.
Yeah, exactly. You can make it up. Very, very good. Thank you very much for reminding me that. For example, let's go to our, for example, imagine that we're writing, actually here is the same topic, right? Reading is more educational than watching TV, movies, or TV. Okay. Imagine that you did not have facts or information as it was my case, right? As I did have information at that time. But in this case, imagine that you didn't have such information. How you could introduce or begin your essay? You can make up a phrase. For example, something that I did when I didn't have information or facts in the exam was, as I said, to introduce a phrase of somebody that I completely made up. For example, let's say, I heard a very wise man, I'm sorry, a very wise man who said, 2 points, reading is the window to, let's say, unmeasurable range of knowledge, let's say. Okay. Oh, I forgot this. Unmeasurable. All right. Come on. Okay, don't do this. Okay, this is for me. Right? I'm not in the essay right now. Reading is the window to unmeasurable range of knowledge. Okay, with this phrase, you are, although it's completely made up, you are introducing your, as I say, your essay. You are beginning to make the case in favor of your position, because when you say, I heard a very wise man who said, right? You're saying a very wise man. So although you're not mentioning specifically who that wise man was, you are saying that you heard a wise man saying, reading is the window to a measurable range of knowledge. All right. With that phrase, that is related, of course, to our topic, reading is more educational than watching movies or TV. You are somehow, as I said, beginning to construct your case in favor of your own position. After this, you can say, accordingly, right, following the template, accordingly, reading is certainly not more educational. Oh no, it's certainly more, right? Because I'm in favor. It's certainly more educational than watching TV. As you can see, all right? So whenever you don't have information facts, you can somehow change it, or you can vary with a phrase. It's completely fine, but of course, okay, you can make it up and nobody's going to complain, because as I say, this is completely possible. There are no right, no wrong answers here. Is it clear, Marinas?
Yes, teacher.
All right, wonderful. Laura, please, another question.
Yes. If, for example, I have an experience, is it better to write it in the introduction part or in the body?
Very good question, Laura. Thank you very much. In this case, I would say that you should write it down in your body, because the body let's go to the template. the body has a specific spot, a specific lugar for you to write down illustrations. And if you're going to offer illustration of your own experience, wonderful. That is going to make it very powerful, very compelling. Okay, so I would recommend you not to use your experience here in the introduction, but to save that specific and very powerful source of information for the body. Okay, as I'm going to teach you right now. Okay, so save it. Don't use it here. Try to reserve it for this particular part for the body. Okay, but yeah, thank you very much for the question. Okay, so thank you very much, Laura. So thank you. Let's continue. Okay, so once we have finished with the introduction, we get into the transition phrase. We get into what? We get into the body. Okay, how are we going to organize our body? Simply, we're going to do the same that we did in our speaking exercises and practices. You remember, right? After we express our opinion, after we included the transition phrase, what did we do? We simply state our arguments. That is to say, we have to defend the position. Okay, remember, we are asked Ben Shapiro. Why? Because Ben Shapiro defends his position, and that is exactly what we're going to copy. We say first, and you offer your first argument, right? So first, what is your argument in order to believe that TV is not more educational than reading? My first argument was reading offers people the opportunity to have a slower and longer perception of different topics. Okay, I'm using the template. Look at this. First, that is my argument. I'm using this other phrase here. As a matter of fact, which means the hecho, right? As a matter of fact, when people have a book in their hands, they have not the trouble of moving on to the next thing without having understood the previous one. Namely, people can easily go back to the previous page and read again that section they may have not understood appropriately. As you can see, I'm simply here complementing, right? Estoy complementando my argument, but my argument itself, it's this one. This one is my argument. And with this phrase, as a matter of fact, and with all that I'm writing here, I am complementing, right, my argument to make it understandable, right? Now, you can, for example, in this case, say, according to apocryphal hearsay. For example, apocryphal hearsay means un rumor, right? Something that you have heard anywhere. You don't have to mention where. According to apocryphal hearsay, you mentioned, right? Just 5 or 30 words read by somebody are forgotten by the reader. Okay? As you can see, I am complementing. On top of that, I am following again the template. Look at this. According to apocryphal hearsay, and on top of that, and I am complementing. I continue complementing my first argument. What was my first argument? Mine. Reading offers people the opportunity to have a slower and longer perception of different topics. On top of that, I complement. Reading offers the opportunity to have people retaining more than they would in fact retain if merely exposed to media content. Okay, so that is, let's say, your entire argument. Okay, with your argument and with all the complements. Now, this is the time when you use your examples or your illustrations, especially and better if it is from your own experience. Okay, this is what Laura was mentioning. Let's see. We have here exemplifying. This is super important, right? Exemplify. How do we use it? For example, exemplify. I always struggle as a child with watching the TV documentals my professors used as material for my philosophy classes. As you can see, I am talking to them. I am mentioning here something that happened in my own experience. Try to do that. Try to offer experiences of your own life. If you don't have one, make it up. Okay, remind, you can do it. It's not illegal. I compliment. Never was I more flabbergasted than that day. Well, you know what flabbergasted means, right? It means feliz, emocionado, right? As you can see, it's an advanced word, flabbergasted. I'm using a template. Look at this. Never I was more flabbergasted than that day. Look at this. Never I was more flabbergasted than that day when I got a book on the same topic. This is my philosophy topic, right? When I got a book on the same topic written by the well-known philosopher William Lane Craig. For I did not have trouble to understand anymore. My mind went through all that content very smoothly. Moreover, if I was not able to understand something in its fullness, then I could always stop for a while and thus to proceed. As you can see, after I said exemplifying, I'm offering my experience and I am saying how is it that in my own life, my argument did have an effect. That is to say, it was real and true in my own life that when you have a book, you can write down way more smoothly, way more calmly, and you retain more, right? I am exemplifying that with my own life. After you finish that, that is your first argument. What do? You simply move on to the second argument. Furthermore is the word that we're using here, the connector. You can also use secondly if you want, but I recommend you to follow this template exactly as it is, okay? Furthermore, second argument, the content to be found in books does not distract people from the paramount idea, right? As you can see, paramount, I'm using this word, it's advanced. Paramount means the most important, superior idea, right? So try to use this. The content to be found in books does not distract people from the paramount idea. In fact, this is to be one of the more illustrious, again, advanced word, characteristics of books when compared to the TV. Namely, they always stay attached to the topic and does not take you out of notion with music, likes, or any effect. As you can see, I am complementing here. And what am I doing? I am following the template. In fact, right? Connector. De hecho, let's continue. What's more, should somebody want to see how TV is so destructive when compared to books, he could look to the fact that TV documentaries are not considered educational material anymore, but mere entertainment. I am stating my argument, and then I move on with what? With the illustration. To illustrate, right? To illustrate another connector, and I offer an illustration for this one. To illustrate, my sister has said to me that every single time she has watched a documentary about artists, it was not because she actually wanted to learn about music. Actually, all she wanted was to observe the incredible costumes utilized in that documentary. I am what? Illustrating my idea with my own experience. This is something that I made up, actually. This didn't happen in my life. The first illustration did happen, okay? This was true, but nonetheless, this one was not. It's fine anyways, because as you can see, it's a very good illustration, and it supports and somehow enforces my argument and my case, all right? I'm following the template. I say, plus, let's say I am complementing, right? Plus, she has started, my sister, right, to watch them in order to follow the most recent trending. Indeed, this is a great indicator to observe that TV merely turns people's attention from real knowledge and learning, all right? Oh, this is the body. As you can see, body, right? This is the body. Now, in this case, we have a third part, okay? The final one. Conclusion, super easy. What do you have to do in order to conclude? Okay, listen to what I'm going to say. Some people like to conclude. How? Or they like to conclude by simply making a super brief summary of all they have talked about and commented in their essay. Some people like to do that. Nonetheless, I don't recommend you to do that. Why? Because again, you're not adding any new information. You're not adding anything that is a novelty, all right? Nothing. You're not helping yourself to get a better score. No. By simply making another summary of what you have said, because an essay, somehow it's a summary, right? Because it is not an article. For example, it is long. An essay, it's super, super summarized. By offering a summary as a conclusion, you're not helping yourself. But if you, for example, use this other method, let me show you, to conclude with a recommendation or with, let's say, a statement somehow recommending, advising people to follow your opinion, that is first of all, it's uncommon. It's a novelty. It's something that not every single person does, and it's something as well very, very much powerful, because you are so secure of your topic, of your thing, of what you have written about, that you are even able, and you are as secure to include a recommendation or an advice for people to follow. As you can see, for example, my recommendation and my conclusion in this case was, to round off, I would like to say that it is advisable that parents educate their children to read at least 2 times what they watch on the TV. This way, they could secure their children a good education and not to make them people addicted to simple entertainment. Tell me if this is not compelling. This is very compelling. You're somehow, as I say, so secure. You are so convinced of the quality of your essay and your argument that you're simply recommending. You have now the capacity, the standard, you have the, you know, let's say the title to recommend people to do this. A good conclusion. Okay, so try to do that, to make a recommendation, to state something final that you have not mentioned previously. Any question with regard to everything we have discussed? Anything you maybe want me to clarify? Or is it clear? Anything, any final question? No, no questions? All right, no questions. Well,
Teacher, how
so,
many words is that essay?
oh, for example, this essay, by the way, this essay I wrote in 30 minutes, okay? I did write this essay in 30 minutes. And for example, in this case, I got 484 words in this case, okay? 448 words. So it's a very good essay. It's long, but not that long. I mean, it's good. As you can remind the, you know, let's say the recommendable or the adequate quantity of words for having a good score would be 450. I managed to get 484. Better, of course, as if you have more words, the better, right? So yeah, in this case, it's 484 words. But as I told you, try to write down at least 300, and if you are able, it will be awesome, 450, right? So I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna take your assistance, please don't go. And if you have any question, please tell me. Okay, you have time.
Teacher, one more question.
Yeah.
The first line in the body section, there were like an space. Before the first word. And
this space.
Yes. And the introduction and the conclusion doesn't have to be that space too.
No, not necessarily. I mean, this was something that I think it happened by accident. You just simply, you know, make it back. But I mean, if you want to do, this is done with tab, right? If you press tab at the beginning of your writing, this is going to somehow move some, I would say 5 or 4 spaces. If you want to, you can do it. I think this is something that people does sometimes. But I mean, I don't do it.
Because I've always seen that space in all the essays. That's why.
I mean, you can say certainly you can do it, but I think it's not something relevant, really. I mean, it's if you don't include it, nothing negative is going to happen. But if you want to, you can, of course. As I say, you simply go to the beginning of the line and you press tab, and it's going to move on, right? But well, thank you very much for
the thank you.
Commentary. It's very good. All right. So if you want to include that, maybe for aesthetics, fine. It's completely fine. Right. So now please listen to the list. I'm gonna call your name. Please also respond to our traditional poll. Respond with honesty. You're gonna help me a lot. And now I'm going to take your assistance. So please listen to this. All right, here. All right, it said here. All right, it said here, Maria Fernanda Rivero. Okay, not. Caballero Lopez Carlos. All right, Carlos didn't come today. Marines Genesis.
Here, teacher.
Thank you very much. What about Conicilla Carolina?
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much. Yandira Lisette?
Present.
Thank you very much. What about Bonnie Daira? Bonnie? Okay, Bonnie's not here. Finally, Patricia Jennifer Claudia?
Here.
Thank you very much. What about Leticia Mamani Choque Laura?
Present, teacher.
Thank you very much. What about Álvaro Miranda?
Here, teacher, present.
Thank you very much. What about Gutierrez Jessica?
Here, teacher.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And finally, Miguel Ángel Plata.
Present, teacher, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so tomorrow we are going to continue with our learning excursions. We're going to practice for the second task. So please be prepared tomorrow with your American keyboard, and we're going to continue. Okay. So thank you very much, and try to review please the template. Okay. Try to examine it, to review it, and you're going to know what exactly to write about in your entire essay. Okay. Thank you very much for your presence, dear students. See you tomorrow.
Thank you,
Bye,
teacher.
teacher.